Imagine for a moment that a major pharmaceutical company just held a press conference. The CEO walks up to the podium, adjusts his tie, and announces that they've developed a single pill, one capsule, that can lower your blood pressure, sharpen your memory, melt away stress, clean your internal organs, protect your heart, and rebuild your brain cells, all with absolutely zero side effects. The room erupts, stock prices soar, news channels break into regular programming. Within 48 hours, it's the most talked about drug in human history. People are lining up around the block. Governments are placing billion-dollar orders. Everyone on the planet wants a piece of it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Here's the part they'd never tell you at that press conference. That pill already exists. It has existed for as long as humans have been alive. It costs nothing. It requires no prescription, no doctor's visit, no insurance approval. And the only way to take it is to walk out your front door and move your body for 30 minutes. I know what you're thinking. Walking? That's it? That's the big secret? But stay with me, because by the time we're done today, you will never look at a simple walk the same way again. We live in a world that has completely warped our understanding of what health actually looks like. Somewhere along the way, we decided that unless you're gasping for air, soaked in sweat, and pushing your body to its absolute limit, you're not really doing anything meaningful. Gyms started selling the idea that suffering equals results. Fitness influencers built empires on the premise that harder is always better. And quietly, in the shadow of all that noise, the single most powerful health habit available to every human being on Earth got dismissed as too simple, too easy, too ordinary to matter. But here's the truth that modern science keeps proving over and over again. Walking is not ordinary. Walking is extraordinary. It is a full-body biological event that touches nearly every system in your body simultaneously. And the fact that it doesn't look impressive is exactly what makes it so deceptive. The most powerful forces in nature are often the quiet ones. Water doesn't look dangerous until it's carved the Grand Canyon, and a 30-minute walk doesn't look transformative until you understand what's actually happening inside you at the cellular level. The moment your foot lifts off the ground and you take that first step, your body doesn't just start moving, it starts changing. Within the first 60 seconds, your heart rate rises from its resting rhythm of around 60 to 70 beats per minute up to a smooth, steady 100. This isn't your body panicking. This is your body waking up. Think of it like a factory receiving the signal to begin production. Your blood vessels, sensing the increased demand, begin releasing a molecule called nitric oxide. If you've never heard of nitric oxide, pay attention because it is one of the most important molecules your cardiovascular system produces. It acts like a natural relaxant for your arteries. Your blood vessels literally widen, making it easier for blood to move through them, which is why something remarkable happens within just the first 5 minutes of starting a walk. Your blood pressure starts to drop. Not after weeks of training, not after months of consistent effort. Within 5 minutes of starting a walk, your body is already working to protect your heart. But the physical shift is only half the story, and honestly, it might not even be the most important half, because at the moment your arteries are opening up, something profound is happening in your nervous system. Most of us spend our days locked in what scientists call the sympathetic state. That's your body's fight or flight mode. It's the state you're in when you're stressed about a deadline, anxious about a conversation, overwhelmed by your inbox, or lying awake at 2 in the morning with your mind racing. Your body in that state is producing cortisol, tightening your muscles, and keeping your brain on high alert. It's exhausting. It's damaging, and for most modern people, it's their default setting. Walking is the antidote. As you move at a gentle, rhythmic pace, your nervous system reads the signals from your body and makes a critical interpretation. You are not in danger. You are not fleeing a threat. You are exploring. You are moving through your environment with ease and intention. And with that recognition, your body begins to shift from sympathetic overdrive into the parasympathetic state, the rest, digest, and repair mode that your body desperately needs but rarely gets. By the time you hit the 10-minute mark, your brain has entered a completely different mode of operation. Here's something most people never consider. The brain is not a stationary organ. It is a movement-driven organ. It evolved over millions of years in a body that was always moving, always walking, always exploring. When you walk, your heart pumps approximately 15% more blood to your prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain that handles decision-making, focus, creativity, and emotional regulation. That's the part of your brain that makes you effective, clear-headed, and emotionally stable. But even more exciting than increased blood flow is what starts being released right around this point in your walk. Your brain begins producing a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Scientists have nicknamed it Miracle-Gro for the brain, and that nickname is more accurate than it sounds. BDNF doesn't just keep your existing neurons healthy, it actively helps your brain build new neural connections. It repairs damaged cells. It enhances memory formation. It quite literally makes your brain more capable and more resilient with every step you take. This is why so many of history's greatest thinkers were obsessive walkers. Darwin had a thinking path he walked every single day. Beethoven walked for hours through the countryside. Steve Jobs was famous for conducting meetings on foot. These weren't just coincidences or personality quirks. These were people who had discovered, whether consciously or otherwise, that walking unlocks a version of the mind that sitting simply cannot access. When you're stuck on a problem, when creativity feels blocked, when you can't seem to see past the mental fog, the answer isn't to push harder and stare more intensely at the screen. The answer is to stand up, go outside, and walk. Because walking is your brain's windshield wiper. It clears away the metabolic waste products that build up during intense mental work, flushes your neural pathways with fresh oxygenated blood, and creates the exact neurochemical conditions in which insight, creativity, and clarity naturally emerge. The best ideas don't come at your desk, they come on the walk home from the coffee shop. Now let's talk about something that affects hundreds of millions of people, and yet most of them have no idea that a daily walk is one of the most powerful tools available to address it: blood sugar management. Every time you eat, whether it's a meal, a snack, or even a sweetened drink, your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin. A hormone's job is to shepherd that sugar out of your blood and into your cells where it can be used as energy. The problem is that in our modern world of processed food, sedentary lifestyles, and chronic stress, our cells gradually stop responding to insulin as well as they should. This is called insulin resistance, and it is the foundation of type 2 diabetes, weight gain, chronic fatigue, and a dozen other conditions that are quietly epidemic right now. When you walk, your muscles activate something called glucose transporters, essentially tiny molecular doorways in your muscle cells that allow sugar to enter without needing insulin to open the door. Your walking muscles essentially become independent sugar processing units, pulling glucose out of your bloodstream and burning it for energy all on their own. A 30-minute walk after a meal can lower your post-meal blood sugar spike more effectively than many prescribed medications. You are quite literally cleaning your blood with your legs. Here's a truth about fat loss that the fitness industry has a financial incentive to keep quiet. High-intensity exercise, the kind that leaves you wrecked and breathless, does burn a significant number of calories in a short time, but it also triggers a significant spike in cortisol, the same stress hormone we talked about earlier. And here's the cruel irony of cortisol. When it's elevated, your body interprets that as a signal of emergency.
And when the body thinks it's in an emergency, it holds on to fat. It clings to those energy reserves because it doesn't know when the next crisis is coming. So you push yourself through brutal workouts, and your own biology works against your fat loss goals because of the hormonal environment that intensity creates. Walking sidesteps this entire problem completely. Because walking is low intensity, your cortisol levels stay low. Your body doesn't feel threatened. It doesn't go into emergency conservation mode. Instead, it settles comfortably into what exercise scientists call the aerobic fat-burning zone, the metabolic state where your body actually prefers to use stored body fat as its primary fuel source. You're not forcing the fat off. You're not bullying your body into change. You're simply creating the conditions in which your body willingly releases it. Walking isn't the hard way to lose weight. It's the smart way.
There's another system that walking benefits that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most underrated one of all, your lymphatic system. Think of it as your body's internal sewage network. It's a vast system of vessels that runs throughout your entire body, collecting cellular waste, filtering out toxins, removing bacteria, and transporting immune cells where they're needed. Your lymphatic system is constantly working to keep your internal environment clean. But here's the critical difference between your lymphatic system and your cardiovascular system. Your heart pumps your blood. Nothing pumps your lymph. The lymphatic system is entirely dependent on the movement of your muscles to push fluid through its vessels. When you walk, the rhythmic contraction of your calf muscles acts like a secondary pump, squeezing lymphatic fluid up through your legs and toward the lymph nodes where it gets filtered and processed. When you sit still for hours, that fluid stagnates, waste products accumulate, toxins linger. Your immune system becomes sluggish. That heavy, puffy, foggy feeling you get after a long day at a desk, that's your lymphatic system backing up. Walking is how you drain it. It's how you flush yourself clean from the inside out. Chronic inflammation is one of the most important concepts in modern medicine, and it doesn't get nearly enough attention in public health conversations. We used to think inflammation was just the redness and swelling that shows up when you cut your finger. But researchers now understand that low-level systemic inflammation, the kind that simmers in your body quietly for years, is at the root of an astonishing number of serious diseases: heart disease, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, depression, even certain cancers. All of them share a common inflammatory thread. And walking is one of the most effective natural anti-inflammatories we know of. Regular walking reduces the circulating levels of pro-inflammatory molecules in your blood. It signals to your immune system that the body is functioning normally, that there's no ongoing crisis requiring a prolonged inflammatory response. By walking consistently, you're essentially dialing down your body's internal alarm system, shifting it from a state of chronic red alert into a state of calm, efficient maintenance and repair. And for your joints specifically, the ones that many people assume will be damaged by walking, the opposite is actually true. Cartilage has no direct blood supply. It receives its nutrients only through the compression and release of movement. Every step you take literally feeds your joints. Walking doesn't wear out your cartilage. Not walking does. The reason walking does all of this, the reason it touches your cardiovascular system, your nervous system, your metabolism, your immune system, your brain, and your bones, is because you were built for it. For the overwhelming majority of human evolutionary history, walking was simply what humans did. We walked to find food. We walked to find water. We walked to find each other. We didn't have gyms or structured exercise routines because our lives were exercise routines. Modern research suggests that our ancestors walked somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 steps a day without thinking about it. Our DNA was shaped in that environment. Our biology was optimized for a life in motion. When you sit still for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, which is completely normal in the modern world, your body doesn't just get bored, it gets confused. It registers the lack of movement as a signal that something is wrong, and in response, it begins to power down systems, conserve energy, and slowly shift toward a state of deterioration. When you walk, you're not just doing something good for your health, you're fulfilling a biological expectation that has been written into your cells for hundreds of thousands of years. And the benefits don't disappear when the walk ends. This is what most people miss, and it might be the most important point of all. The effects of a 30-minute walk ripple through your entire day in ways that compound with each other in extraordinary ways. Because you stabilized your blood sugar during the walk, you avoid the sharp energy crash that usually hits in the mid-afternoon. Because you lowered your cortisol, you'll feel calmer and less reactive in conversations and decision-making throughout the rest of the day. Because you boosted your BDNF, you'll find that your thinking is sharper, your creativity is more accessible, and your focus holds longer. And because you've reduced your cortisol and your nervous system has been given time in the parasympathetic state, when bedtime arrives, you'll fall asleep faster and spend more time in the deep restorative stages of sleep that your body needs to heal, consolidate memory, and regulate hormones. A 30-minute walk in the morning doesn't just improve your morning, it quietly upgrades every hour that follows. So here's what I want you to take away from everything we've covered today. Health is not complicated. The world profits from convincing you it is. Supplement companies, fitness apps, biohacking gadgets, and expensive programs all depend on you believing that the solution to feeling better is something you haven't tried yet, something you need to buy. But the science keeps pointing back to something so simple, so available, and so free that it feels almost suspicious. Move your body. Walk. 30 minutes. That's it. If you walk for 30 minutes today, you'll feel better by tonight. If you walk for 30 minutes every day for a month, people around you will start to notice a difference. If you walk for 30 minutes every day for a year, you will be a measurably different person, physically, mentally, and emotionally. You don't need to be fit to start. You don't need special gear or a perfect routine or the right playlist. You just need to begin. Because your heart is waiting for this. Your brain is waiting for this. Every cell in your body is waiting for you to give it the one signal it has been programmed since birth to respond to. The feeling of your feet moving forward, one step at a time, carrying you somewhere worth going.